Hey everyone, my name is Nina, and today I'm going to be going through my thoughts and feelings on the new Captain Marvel movie, because man oh man do I have a lot to talk about. This movie came out about 5 days ago at this point, and I've already seen it twice. So you can already tell that I really enjoyed this movie and have overall positive things to say. I think if I were giving it a number rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because there definitely were some problems and like it wasn't perfect, but overall I absolutely really enjoyed it, and like this was the like feminist Marvel movie that I've been waiting for basically like 8 years at this point, ever since I saw the first Avengers movie, and I have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Brief warning, this video may or may not contain spoilers. I don't really know. I'm gonna be a rambling mess, so like proceed at your own caution, but I recommend watching the movie before you watch this. First, I want to talk about some of my like initial thoughts going into the movies, kind of the hype that I had in my head surrounding this and my expectations, because I had pretty surprisingly low expectations for this movie, because I've been having issues lately where I've been overhyping Marvel movies and then like kind of disappointed by them the first time that I see them in theaters, and then I eventually go back and see them a second time and love them, but like I like enjoying it the first time. Because I remember when the first trailer came out for this movie and I really enjoyed the trailer, but then I started hearing more people talk about it. I was like, ooh, maybe that wasn't a great trailer, and like I don't know, just kind of getting in my head of like, oh shoot, what if this movie sucks? Because this movie, so much is riding on it, because it's one of those BS things where if it does amazing, people are like, oh, maybe females can lead superhero movies, but if it fails, they're like, I told you so, this is why we didn't do this earlier. And so I was terrified that it wasn't going to be good, and so I was not hyping it up at all, and I genuinely kind of forgot about it until like the day before me and my friends were going, and then it just hit me. I was just like, I am going to cry tomorrow no matter what, because if it's good, I'm going to be that like emotional mess, like, oh my god, it was so amazing, and then if it's bad, I'm just gonna be so disappointed. But thankfully, of course, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was amazing. It was really great female representation, both of main characters and side characters, and just really well done, because honestly, besides this movie, the only MCU movie that I feel like really did a good job of female representation was Black Panther. And that's amazing, of course, but it's also sad that the only really well done one was just a year ago. And kind of speaking of Black Panther, I do want to touch on one thing, because I've been reading through some like online reviews to kind of see what critics and audiences, etc. are thinking about this movie. And one thing that I saw that really rubbed me the wrong way was that a couple of reviewers have been complaining that this movie wasn't like revolutionary enough. They were referring to Black Panther and saying like, look at that movie, it was so different from all the other superhero movies, it was so revolutionary, so great, so different, like why couldn't Captain Marvel be like that? And they were saying it was disappointing compared to that. And that just really bothered me, because it's like, I think that shows how simple it was to do this, and could have been to do this like 10 years ago. Like, that's the thing. Making a superhero movie with a female main character isn't revolutionary. It shouldn't be something that has to change the game and change the face of superhero movies for the future. Like, it's so basic and simple. And I'm not saying that changing and like having Black Panther needed to be revolutionary either, but I think Black Panther approached it in a different way because it took place in Wakanda and was so steep in this like African-centric culture, where it really did change the game, because most of the other superhero movies are based in the US and have a very Western cultural center, whereas Black Panther didn't, so it was revolutionary in that aspect, but they could have easily made a different Black-led superhero movie that wasn't revolutionary and took place in the US, etc. Like, I'm fine that this wasn't the best Marvel movie that I've ever seen, because that's not what I was hoping for. I was just hoping for anything that was led by a female superhero, and like, I got it. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents on that. It's just something that rubbed me the wrong way that I really wanted to talk about, because I think it's this misunderstanding that whenever you're bringing in aspects of diversity, it has to be this huge important thing, and like, it doesn't. I don't know, like, I just want a normal Marvel movie that just so happens to be about a female superhero. One of my first thoughts when watching this movie was actually quite a stupid one, and it was, wait a moment, I'm about to get a movie full of female badass fight sequences, which you would think is obvious, but it's just so weird, because after being conditioned and watching so many MCU movies over the years, I'm so used to having movies where maybe like Black Widow shows up and she has her one fight sequence. Like you can look in basically any like the Avengers 2, all of the Iron Man movies, like Black Widow has that one scene where she does her fight sequence, and like Scarlet Witch might have her one sequence. And like I'm just so used to that conditioning and that way of the movies being structured. That was so weird for me to have the first or second scene in the movie be Brie Larson and Jude Law sparring, and like that wasn't the only time that I got to see a woman be badass. I don't know, like that sounds weird, but like that's why this movie was so important, because it's not just relegated to one scene or one little side character. Like it's actually all about her, and you get to see her be badass and awesome continuously throughout the film and in different ways, and it's just I don't know why that didn't hit me, and I didn't understand that until that actual first scene, but like that's when this movie became real for me, and I realized just how much it was important to me. It just like changed my perception of how a movie could be structured and use its female characters, which is crazy. I don't know. Weird. And then the other scene that also had that weird impact for me was one of the last scenes, and actually it didn't hit me until the second time I was watching it, but when Captain Marvel is going through, and like one of the last scenes, like she's got her full blaze of powers, she's flying all over the place destroying things, and it hit me that like part of the reason I think why I enjoyed this movie so much was because it's the first time that I've seen a live action adaptation of a comic book that I've read before seeing it. Like I've read a decent amount of comics, but I usually read them after seeing a Marvel movie, or I read about characters that like haven't been adapted yet. So I read a lot of female superhero comics like Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Silk, Spider-Gwen, like a lot of really great female-led superhero comics that just never see the big screen. And so it was just weird for me that like I actually got to see that, and just that resonance of like seeing one of your favorite characters that like you can identify with being up there was just part of what made me so happy. And I didn't like realize that until the second time viewing it, but it was just wonderful, and so great. I don't know how to wrap this up. It was just so great. And then I will say the other like big impact shot for me, which is weird, like I've noticed this now, like a parallel between this and Wonder Woman, is when the little girl is like fiddling with her suit and trying different color combinations, and then when you get to the, like she looks at the girl's shirt, is like, let's be on the same team, and then changes it to her like colors, and she has like that suit reveal. That like got me. That's like the one real part in the movie where I choked up real bad, and I don't know why, because like looking at Wonder Woman, the scene that also got me was when she was going through no man's land and like took off her coat and it was revealed like her costume, and she was like standing up really like badassly. And I don't know why those two scenes got me. I think it's just that big suit reveal of like, she's here. Like, this is the movie that we signed up to see, and the badass moment and the strong female character just standing there and ready to like take on whatever's going to be thrown at her. That just like gets me every time. I don't know why. That's just like my thing that gets to me, but it was so beautiful. I loved it. So now I have a few more specific things to talk about from the movie. One of my favorite scenes is when Captain Marvel is standing outside of the like dial-up internet place, and she's looking at a map or something. I don't actually know what she's looking at, but the guy pulls up and is like revving his motorbike and is like, can you give me a smile or whatever, and she's just like, no. Like, and I loved that. That was just a beautiful scene, because like every single girl, if you've asked her, she's had an encounter where some guy has told her to smile. Like, I know I have, and it's just like one of those frustrating things that happens to girls all the time. So I'm so glad that they included that. Another one of my favorite like interactions or things that she had is towards the end when they're having their big fight sequence, and one of the Kree guys like falls on her and like is like holding a knife above her or something, a weapon of some sort, and he's like, don't make me do this, and she's just like, okay, and like blasts him away from her. And it's just like so beautiful. That's the like little tidbits where I really liked her personality, where she was just like, I'm not gonna deal with this BS, and like also making quips, and I just really enjoyed that. I also feel like I have to talk about Nick Fury because he was amazing in this movie, and also Coulson. I loved all of my Coulson moments because I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I love that show, and so I see him a lot in there, but we haven't seen him in the MCU because they all think he's dead and whatever. So it was nice to get my Coulson moments, not gonna lie. And then Fury was also great. He had some of the best lines in this movie, not gonna lie, and was just overall hilarious. But I must say my biggest gripe with this movie was that Captain Marvel wasn't even like the main character. She didn't steal the show at all. The person or thing that stole the show for me was Goose. Goose was just so freaking cute. I loved how Fury was like so attached to Goose and always like, oh, aren't you a cute kitty and all of that. And then I loved that I was a Flurkin because like I kind of knew like that something was off about the cat, or like I knew that it was a Flurkin, but I didn't know what Flurkins were. So that scene when it like eats those people and eats the Tesseract, I was just like, you could just like feel the like shock in the audience in the theater, and I loved it. It was definitely like, that was hands down my favorite moment, was when the cat like eats the Tesseract, when Captain Marvel's like, would you like an oven mitt? And then the cat just eats it. And that was like hands down the best moment of the movie. But like still kind of bitter that a cat stole the show. But it was hella cute. Like, hot take, I would watch an entire movie about Goose, not gonna lie. We all would. Let's be real. My other main con for this movie was another one that's like wrapped up in a good thing. So like the two post-credit scenes I really enjoyed. But the first one, Captain Marvel's entrance wasn't as dramatic as I wanted it to be. Like, it was fine, it was good, but what really annoyed me is that I really wanted her to come up with her pixie haircut because it is so freaking amazing. I love her when she has short hair. She rocks it so well in the comics, and I was like, okay, I understand in this movie, Captain Marvel, it's in the 90s, she's gonna have her like longer hair, like shoulder length, but then she's gonna come back for Endgame and she's gonna be rocking her pixie cut, and I'm so here for it. But no, she shows up, and not only does she not have a pixie cut, she has longer hair than she does in the Captain Marvel movie, and I was just like, that's the only thing I wanted from this movie. Like, how dare you not show that? I don't know. Just very disappointed. Maybe that's just me. It's probably just me. I don't know. I needed to rant about it, so there we go. And then only really other critiques were like, there were some scenes or like parts that were really tropey or like kind of predictable. Like, I saw most of the plot twists coming, mainly because I'm so familiar with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the comics. But, and then like other scenes, like when they're having some of the plane chases, it gave me like major Star Wars vibes, and I was like, oof, that's not a great thing. But overall, like, it's a movie, it's gonna be predictable to some extent, so that's not a huge con for me. Overall, I just loved the characters, I really enjoyed the plot. I thought the Skrulls, the main one especially, did a really good job, and they were hilarious. I also loved the scene where they're like, talking about where the coordinates are, and they're like, yeah, it's actually like in space, it's just basic physics. And the guy turns to the second Skrull, he's like, you're my science guy, like, what gives, basically. And that was hilarious. So those are all my thoughts on Captain Marvel, but I do want to kind of leave with a brief conversation, because I think earlier when I was talking about how this is one of the only really great female representation movies in the MCU, is something that, like, I don't know if I see it changing or not. I'll just dive right in and say it. The reason the MCU has been doing so poorly with the female characters so far is that they don't realize that female representation is just as important in side characters as it is in main characters, and how you treat those side characters and treating them like people and not objects, or not for like sexual subplots or whatever, or just to stand there and look hot. And it's been really frustrating in previous Marvel movies, because I've seen that a lot in a lot of movies, because I recently rewatched almost every single Marvel movie, and like I can't even count how many times there are that women are just used as like props or like for sexual undertones or etc. And it's just so frustrating, because I really hope that that's something that changes in future Marvel movies, but I honestly don't know if it will. So at least now we do have that female-led superhero movie, but this can't be the only one, and this can't be the only change that we see. And I don't know, I hate to like end this on a somber note, but it's just been something that I've been frustrated with in the past, and I hope I see a change in the future, because The MCU needs to do better, frankly. So yeah. Yay! I think those were all my thoughts on this movie. That was a rambling mess, and I apologize for that. But I have not filmed a video recently, so I also apologize for that. We'll see. Let me know down below what your thoughts on Captain Marvel were. You're good, you're bad, just in general. What were your thoughts? Or are you still excited to see it and you haven't seen it yet? That is it for me today. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe, and I will see you guys later with another video soon. Bye! I shouldn't say soon. It's just gonna be another video at some point.